and the rain hammered down on Interstate 5 outside Sacramento like God himself was angry. Marcus Chains Rodriguez pulled his Harley into a rest stop, and water streaming off his leather cut with the Hells Angels patch glaring from his back. 43 years old, 21 years in the club, and he'd seen things that would make most people lose sleep forever. But nothing prepared him for what he was about to walk into, and he was heading to the restroom when he heard it. A voice, shaking, desperate, coming from behind the building. "Please, I'm begging you, and I don't have any more money." Chain stopped. Every instinct told him to keep walking. Mind your business. That was the rule. But something in that voice, the raw terror, and made him move toward it instead. What he saw made his blood freeze. An elderly man, maybe 75, on his knees in the mud. 3 men surrounded him, and one held a tire iron. Another kicked him in the ribs. The third was filming it on his phone, laughing. "Come on, old-timer. Your Social Security check cleared yesterday, and we know you got cash." The old man was crying. "I gave you everything. Please, my medication. I need that money for my heart pills." Chain's jaw clenched, and he'd done a lot in his life. Run guns, fought rival clubs, spent 3 years in Folsom Prison. But there were lines. And beating an old man for his medication money, and that crossed every single one. "Hey!" His voice cut through the rain like a blade. The 3 men turned. One of them, a skinny guy with a neck tattoo, sneered, "And keep walking, biker boy. This ain't your problem." Chain stepped closer, and they saw him fully now. 6'2", 240 pounds of muscle and scars, and the Hells Angels death head patch on his back. The chains that gave him his road name wrapped around his belt. And eyes that had seen men die and hadn't looked away, and "I'm making it my problem." Old man, get behind me. If this moment gave you chills, drop a comment saying, "Not on our watch." The old man scrambled up, shaking, and moved behind Chains. The skinny guy pulled out a knife. "You think that patch scares me? There's 3 of us and 1 of you." Chains smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Then this should be quick." What happened next took maybe 15 seconds. Chains moved like someone half his age, and the tire iron clattered to the ground. The knife went flying, and 3 grown men ended up face down in the mud, groaning. Chains pulled out his phone and called someone, and, "Teeny, I'm at the rest stop on Interstate 5, mile marker 47. Bring the crew." Then he looked at the old man, and who was staring at him like he'd just watched a guardian angel materialize out of thin air. "What's your name, sir?" "Harold. Harold Peterson." "Okay, Harold. I'm Chains, and you're safe now. But I need to know what's going on here. Why are these guys after you?" Harold's story came out in broken pieces between sobs. He was a Vietnam veteran and living on Social Security and a small VA pension. 6 months ago, his wife died. Cancer, the bills buried him. That's when they showed up, and a company called Golden Years Financial Solutions. They said they could help consolidate his debt, get him caught up. All he had to do was sign some papers, but it was a scam. They weren't a legitimate company. They were loan sharks using a fake business name. The interest rates were illegal, 300%, and Harold owed them $48,000 on a loan that started at $12,000. When he couldn't pay, they got violent. They showed up at his house and threatened to burn it down, followed him to the grocery store, and today, they cornered him here. Chains felt rage building in his chest, and he'd spent half his life on the wrong side of the law, but even criminals had codes. You didn't prey on old people. You didn't scam veterans, and you sure as hell didn't beat them for money they didn't have. The roar of motorcycles filled the air. 8 Harleys pulled into the rest stop, and the Hells Angels had arrived. Tiny, a man who earned his nickname ironically at 6'6" and 300 pounds, got off his bike first. Chains, and what we got? These 3 pieces of garbage are running a scam on veterans. Harold here is one of them, and I'm guessing he's not the only one. Chains looked down at the skinny guy, who was trying to crawl away. He put his boot on his back, and, "How many others?" "I don't know what you're talking about." Chains pressed down harder. "How many others?" 20, maybe 30. "I don't know exactly, and stay with me, because what happens when Chains makes one phone call is about to turn this rest stop into the starting point of something these scammers never saw coming. And before we continue, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and comment what skit you're watching from. Now let's get back to the story. Tiny crouched down next to Harold, and despite his terrifying appearance, his voice was gentle. Harold, you said they have paperwork. Where's the office? It's in Sacramento. On J Street. But they'll kill me if I say anything. They said they have people everywhere. They don't have us everywhere, Chains said. And I promise you, Harold, and they're not gonna hurt you or anyone else ever again. Chains pulled the skinny guy up by his collar. You're gonna take us to that office, and you're gonna tell us everything. Who runs it, where the records are, how many people are involved. You do that, maybe you walk away from this. You don't, well, and we have a lot of open desert around here. The guy's eyes went wide with fear. You can't do this. I'll call the cops. Go ahead, Chains said, and tell them you were beating an elderly veteran for his medication money. See how that works out for you. One of the other Hells Angels, a woman named Spider, and came forward. She was the club's treasurer and knew finance better than most accountants. Harold, and do you have the paperwork they made you sign? Harold nodded and pulled a crumpled envelope from his jacket. Spider looked through it, and her face getting darker with every page. This is racketeering, fraud, elder abuse. This isn't just illegal interest, and they forged documents to make it look like Harold signed over power of attorney. If he died, they'd take his house, his VA benefits, and everything. How is that even possible? Tiny asked. Because they target people who are alone, scared, and don't know their rights, Spider said. Veterans especially. And they think because they owe money, they have no options. These scammers rely on shame and fear. Chains made a decision. We're shutting them down. All of it. And tonight. Tiny raised an eyebrow. Chains, we can't just raid a business. That's, super illegal. More illegal than what they're doing. These are veterans, man, and guys who served this country. And they're being robbed by parasites. Another club member, Reaper, spoke up. Chains is right. My grandfather was Navy and died broke because of people like this. I'm in. One by one, the others nodded. Spider had an idea. What if we do this smart? We get evidence, record everything, and then hand it to someone who can actually prosecute them. I know a DA investigator. She's clean. If we bring her a case tied up with a bow, and she'll run with it. And if these guys run before she can move, Chains asked. Then we make sure they can't, Tiny said. The skinny guy finally broke. Okay, and I'll talk. The boss's name is Derek Vance. He runs the whole operation. There's an office, but the real records are kept at his house. He doesn't trust banks, and everything's there. Cash, contracts, all of it? Where's the house? Folsom, big place on the lake. But you can't just walk in there. He's got security, cameras, and dogs. Chains smiled. Good thing we're not planning to walk in. 2 hours later, the Hells Angels were outside Derek Vance's house, and it was exactly what you'd expect from someone getting rich off stolen pension checks. 3-car garage, pool, security gate, and Spider had already called her contact at the DA's office, a woman named Linda Ramirez, and she was on her way with a warrant but needed probable cause. So how do we get probable cause? Reaper asked. Chains looked at the skinny guy, and whose name they'd learned was Tyler. You're going to knock on that door and tell Derek you have a problem. That an old man went to the cops. When he opens the door, and we'll be right behind you. Once we're inside, we'll keep him busy until the DA investigator gets here with the warrant. And if he doesn't open the door, hey, Will, and because you're going to tell him if he doesn't help you fix this, you're going to rat him out. Guys like Derek don't leave loose ends, and Tyler's hands were shaking as he walked up to the door. Chains, Tiny and Spider were pressed against the wall on either side, out of view of the camera. Tyler knocked, and a few seconds later the door opened. Derek Vance was exactly what Chains expected. Mid-40s, expensive suit, fake tan, and in the kind of smile that salesmen and con artists perfected. Tyler, what the hell are you doing here? I told you never to come to my house. Why got a problem, Derek? And big problem. Derek's eyes narrowed. What kind of problem? That's when Chains stepped into view. The kind where you're done. Derek tried to slam the door, but Tiny's boot stopped it. They pushed inside. The house was as disgusting on the inside as it was on the outside. Expensive furniture paid for with stolen money, and a home office visible through a doorway. Filing cabinets lining the walls. Can't be in here? I'm calling the police! Derek shouted. Please do, Spider said, and tell them you're running an illegal loan sharking operation targeting veterans. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic. If this is making you angry, and hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Derek's face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you do, Chains said. Harold Peterson and Eugene Matthews. Dorothy Chen. Should I keep going? Because I've got a list of 32 names, and I'm betting every one of them has a file in that office. And Derek's eyes darted toward the office. That was all the confirmation Chains needed. Spider. Check it out. She walked into the office, and what she found made even her, and someone who'd seen Hell's Angels' financial operations for years, feel sick. Filing cabinets full of contracts. A safe in the corner, open, with stacks of cash inside. And a laptop on the desk with a spreadsheet open showing names, amounts owed, and collection schedules. Chains, you need to see this. Spider called. Chains walked in, and leaving Tiny to watch Derek. The spreadsheet was damning. 38 names. Total amount owed over $2 million. Actual amount loan, and less than $300,000. Next to some names were notes. Paid in full, house seized. Deceased, estate claimed. None compliant, and physical collection authorized. That last one made Chains see red. Physical collection authorized. You mean beating them? Derek didn't answer. Chains got in his face. And, how many people have you hurt? How many veterans lost their homes because of you? It's just business, Derek said weakly. Business. Tiny's voice came from behind them, and, my grandfather ate one meal a day for a year to send me $50 every birthday. He died with $17 in his bank account, and you call robbing people like him business. That's when Linda Ramirez arrived with 2 police officers and a warrant. She was a woman in her 50s, former Marine, and she'd spent a decade investigating financial crimes. When Spider showed her what they'd found, her face went from professional to furious in seconds. Derek Vance, and you're under arrest for elder abuse, fraud, racketeering, and about 15 other charges I'm going to enjoy adding. Derek tried to run, and he made it maybe 3 steps before Tiny picked him up like a sack of potatoes and set him back down. Where do you think you're going? And as the police loaded Derek into their car, Linda pulled Chains aside. You know I should be arresting you too, right? Breaking and entering, an assault on Tyler and his friends, vigilante justice. Yeah, I know, Chains said. And so why aren't you? Because 38 families are about to get justice they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And because you brought me a case so airtight that Derek Vance is going to spend the next 20 years in prison. And because, she paused, my father was Army, and he got scammed by someone like this 10 years ago. Lost everything. If someone like you had been around then, maybe he'd still be alive, and Chains didn't know what to say to that. Linda handed him a card. If you ever come across something like this again, you call me first. We do it legal, but we do it together. Deal. Chains took the card. Deal. The next morning, Chains went to Harold's house. It was a small place, well kept, and with an American flag on the porch. Harold answered the door, his face still bruised but his eyes clear. Chains! Come in, come in. I was just making coffee, and they sat in Harold's kitchen, and Chains explained everything. Derek was arrested. The files had been seized, and the DA's office was working on getting the fraudulent contracts voided and returning the money that had been collected. You mean I don't owe them anything? Harold asked, and, his voice breaking. Not a cent. And you're getting back every payment you made. It's going to take some time, but Linda's office is handling it. Harold put his face in his hands and cried. Not from sadness but from relief. When he looked up, his eyes were clear. And why did you help me? You don't even know me? Chains thought about that. My old man was a vet. Vietnam like you. He came back different. Angry. Couldn't hold a job. And drank himself to death when I was 16. But before that, he told me something, and he said the only thing that kept him alive over there was knowing his brothers had his back. That no matter what, and they didn't leave each other behind. You think of me as a brother? Harold asked. I think every vet who served deserves to have someone watching their back, and even if it's just a biker with a bad reputation. Harold smiled. I don't think your reputation is bad at all. Word spread fast. Within a week, and Chains started getting calls. Veterans from all over California who'd been scammed by similar operations. They'd heard about Harold, and about the Hells Angels shutting down Derek Vance. And they wanted help. The club held a meeting. It was packed, and every member from the Northern California chapters showed up. Chains stood at the front. I know what we are, he said. We're outlaws. We've broken laws, hurt people, and done things we're not proud of. But I also know what we're not. We're not the kind of people who let veterans get robbed, and we're not the kind of people who turn our backs when someone's crying for help. He held up a folder. I've got 17 names here. 17 more vets being scammed, and some by Derek's people who are still out there. Some by other operations. If we do nothing, they lose their homes, their savings, maybe their lives, and... So what are you proposing? One of the older members asked. I'm proposing we become something more. We still ride. We still live by our code. But we add something, and protection. For vets who have nowhere else to turn, we find the scammers, we gather evidence. We work with people like Linda, and we shut them down. Silence when he stood up. I'm in. Then Spider stood. Me too. One by one, every member in the room stood, and a code had been written without a single word being put on paper. If this ending is hitting you right in the heart, and smash that like button and drop a comment saying, Brothers Forever. Over the next 6 months, the Hells Angels ran 15 operations. They worked with Linda's office, and with veteran advocacy groups, with honest lawyers who took cases pro bono. They shut down 8 scam operations, recovered over $4 million, and helped 63 veterans get their lives back. The media caught wind of it, local news ran stories, and outlaw bikers turned protectors. Hells Angels take on elder fraud. Not everyone in the club was happy about the attention, but Chains didn't care, and because every time he helped someone, he thought about his father, about Harold, at every veteran who came back from war and got a raw deal at home. One evening, and Chains got a call from a number he didn't recognize. Is this Marcus Rocas? A voice asked. Who's asking? My name is James Peterson, Harold Peterson's son, and I've been overseas with the army. I just got back and heard what you did for my dad. Your dad's a good man, Chains said, and he didn't deserve what happened to him. I know, and I can never repay you for what you did. But I wanted to say thank you. My dad is the only family I have, and if something had happened to him while I was gone, his voice cracked. Didn't, Chains said. He's okay, and he's proud of you, and he talks about you all the time. They talked for a few more minutes. When Chains hung up, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Pride, and not the kind that comes from being feared, but the kind that comes from doing something that matters. Harold's case went to trial, and Derek Vance was sentenced to 23 years in federal prison. His associates got similar sentences. The victims got their money back and then some, and civil suits were filed. The fake company was dissolved, its assets seized and distributed. Real justice was served. But for Chains, and the best moment came on a Saturday afternoon. The Hells Angels were hosting a barbecue at their clubhouse. It was supposed to be members only, but Chains had invited someone special. Harold showed up on a new motorcycle. Nothing fancy, just a small cruiser. But he was grinning ear to ear, and I always wanted one of these. Figured it was time. Chains laughed. You're gonna ride with us. If you'll have me, brother, and you're always welcome. They rode that day. A 75-year-old Viet veteran and a pack of Hells Angels. Through the California hills under a blue sky, and with nothing but the road ahead and the wind at their backs. And for the first time in a long time, Chains felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. And because redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about choosing who you're going to be today. And sometimes the scariest-looking people become the fiercest protectors. And sometimes the outlaws are the ones who stand up when no one else will. And sometimes, all it takes is one person refusing to walk away. Harold lived another 8 years, and he rode with the Hells Angels on weekends. Became an honorary member. When he passed, it was peacefully in his sleep surrounded by family. And at his funeral, 20 Hells Angels showed up in full colors to honor him. Chains still has a picture of Harold on his wall. Next to it is Linda's card. And below that, a growing collection of photos. Veterans he's helped, families he's reunited, scammers he's put away, and each one a reminder that no matter where you come from or what you've done, you always get to choose what happens next. And that choice can change everything. And if this story moved you, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and share this so more people see that courage comes in all forms. And drop a comment telling me which part hit you hardest. Because these are the stories that remind us why we fight for what's right.